Good morning. You're listening to WXOX 97.1 FM in Louisville, Kentucky, or perhaps you are listening to WXND, our sister station, at 100.9 on the dial. This is Artist Talk with LVA, produced by Louisville Visual Art, and I'm the host, Keith Waits. This morning, I'm talking to three women who are theater artists in Louisville, Kentucky. They're with Mind's Eye Theater Company, one of the small number of women-led theater companies in the Louisville area, and the company is presenting Guys and Dolls, opening February 25th and running for 2 weekends at Art Sanctuary. And we have with us today Jenn Starr, Valerie Canon, and Maggie Hartman, who are all board members for Mind's Eye, and they're all involved in the show. Jenn Starr is directing, Valerie Canon is playing Adelaide, and Maggie Hartman is playing one of the hot box dancers, and probably doing more than that, because that's just the nature of theater. But good morning.
Good morning.
So this, Jenn Starr, let's start with you. This is the first production since the pandemic started, right?
It is. We're back. We're back with live theater, and it's been quite a journey so far. We're excited to be back. And it's a big cast, and we've taken a lot of precautions because of the pandemic. And we're super excited and hope it all goes really well, because it's, we knock on wood every day.
Well, it's the thing. Let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. So are you requiring a proof of vaccination for entry or negative test and masks? What are the protocols that are in
We
place?
prefer people be vaccinated or have a negative test, but we're requiring all masks. We can't, say, hey, but I think most people that are our audience are probably going to be vaccinated. We have in our cast, we did require everyone to be vaccinated, and we wear masks at all times at all rehearsals.
Well, something I have observed in my time, because I see a lot of different, I work in the visual arts world. I see a lot of theater and performance. And I find that by and large, the people who are arts supporters have always been, for the most part, I think that I know that's a big, broad generalization, but people who are consistent arts supporters are pretty good about these protocols, and that they're just happy to go do stuff. They'll wear a mask. Sure, because it beats staying home and watching Netflix for the 500th night. So, I always feel good about that. I always feel good about the arts community and the people that support it, that there's that sort of attitude, I think. But so you guys were about to do Guys and Dolls when that was like, it wasn't like just about to happen, but you were close to it, right? When the pandemic broke open.
I had 2 production meetings already with a similar staff, but one notable difference, we had a different choreographer, but a lot of the people came back, and that was 2 years ago. It was a long time ago, because we had just finished Children of Eden, and we were gearing up to do this, and I think we postponed it twice, I want to say. Is that right, Valerie? Yeah.
Right.
That's correct.
So we've been anxious and excited to do this show. It's a great show. It's so much fun, and it's just a great, joyful cast too.
It's hard to remember. I think people, even it's 2 years ago now, that, we all thought, well, it's going to be a month, right? Or it's going to be
right?
like, we were all like, it's just a pause. It's just a delay. We're all going to be right back there soon.
So how naive of us.
Yes. How naive of us.
Oops.
So let's switch over. I don't want to ignore the other 2 people here. So Valerie, let me ask you, you're playing Adelaide.
Correct.
And so had you been cast in the previous go around, or had it gotten that far?
Mind's Eye had not even made it to the audition phase. Okay. Because when the lockdown happened was right there at the end of January, beginning of February timeframe.
Yeah.
And that's when we would have been auditioning, because we were supposed to go up right there at the end of May. So the show hadn't even auditioned at that point. We were getting ready to make announcements as far as dates went. So, as far as like shows go, keeping an eye on local community theater, a lot of other companies were in rehearsal and they were getting ready to open. So in that space, we were actually really lucky, because we hadn't cast, and we didn't have scripts in hand already, and we didn't have to disappoint a bunch of actors. We were able just to push it on down the road. So no, I hadn't auditioned, and nobody had. So
you're a board member, you're one of the leaders of the company, but you're also just playing Adelaide. So let me ask you, as a performer, I don't mean to say like just playing Adelaide, but just to like focus for a second on. So, had you thought about this role? I think you had. Is this a dream role, or was it just what's it like to play Adelaide?
So Adelaide's been on my bucket list for a long time. I really enjoy playing comedic character roles that also get to dance, because I like dancing, obviously, because my background's in dance. But I really enjoy doing comedic female roles. And she definitely fits that niche for me. And as far as the show goes, I am a board member, but as a board, we discussed this in advance, that we wanted to be really careful about, board members should still have the opportunity to audition for our shows. But, if you are auditioning to be in the show, then you should probably take a step back from the show as much as possible. So like, I have no artistic say in the show. As a board member, I'll be there for load in, and, I'll do all of those pieces, but like, I'm not offering choreographic help. I had no say in any of those pieces, so that it's, as fair as possible to the community as well.
Sure.
Is the hope. So,
well,
Adelaide's totally been a bucket list role of mine, and she's so much fun. She's a character with a lot of heart, and getting to finally act opposite Greg Collier is also like weirdly like a big bucket thing for me too, because I've done so many shows with him, and he's just delightful to work with. And I finally actually get to say words at his face instead of not at his face, which is what usually happens when we're casting shows together.
Right. Well, in probably the best example, you were in the Drowsy Chaperone together. But the nature of that show, and that's a whole nother show we won't get into, but the nature of that show is, even though you are sometimes on stage together, you are oblivious to each other's presence.
Exactly.
Right. So, and he's
it's
playing
actually
Nathan.
Fun to like acknowledge him on stage.
Yeah. And he's playing Nathan Detroit. And Nathan and Adelaide are a couple. The thing I always liked about Adelaide, I'm very familiar. I've seen the movie. I've never seen a stage production, although I know a lot about the changes between the two. But she strikes me as, she's very easily a cliche, a stereotype, and they wrote her to be more than that. It's kind of fun that when you first encounter her, it depends on how it's played, but I think that Adelaide is sort of the typical sort of dumb blonde of in Damon Runyon's dialogue, really sort of puts it a certain way, but that she's much more interesting and much more complicated than the cliche that you first encounter. Does that seem right to you when you, as somebody playing it?
I think that's why I'm drawn to these kind of roles, because I think there's often the dumb blonde role, the comedic female, but they're not, humans are much more complicated than that. So I think a character is always going to be more complicated than just a flat, funny, dumb person. She really loves Nathan, and she, has really big feels about that. And I think she communicates that through the show. And she also, obviously very much cares about the people in her community, which you also see throughout the process of the show. Like, she never has a mean word to say to anybody. And, even her mean words to Nathan are not even that mean, because she loves him so much. So, I think she's a very darling character. She's very sweet.
I love the fact that you said darling. That's a very old-fashioned word.
She says it about 50 times in this.
That's right.
So it's my new vernacular. I'm going to be saying darling for the next 6 months, probably.
Were you just dropping into your Adelaide voice there for a second?
She did say vernacular.
Yeah, I heard just a little bit.
Vernacular.
It could happen. We run lines here, and my kids just think it's the weirdest thing. They're like, "Mom, why are you talking like that?" The baby can't figure it out. She's 3, and she's just like giving me, the weird look all the time. What does my mom do when she's so strange?
Well, I've often said, the kids of artists are the luckiest kids. They'll get it. They'll get it down the line.
Oh yeah. Oh no, they love it. Anytime, on the rare occasion I have to take them to rehearsal, they just think it's the coolest thing.
Well, Maggie Hartman, I don't want to be ignoring you. Let's get you in on this conversation a little bit. So you're playing a hot box dancer,
I am, yes.
which
Another
just
dream
as a
role of mine, actually.
yeah, just as a phrase is sort of very provocative sounding. And these are
Exactly.
this is the group. Adelaide has I believe one number with Adelaide is the star at a nightclub, and she performs, and she has like a group of chorus girls that perform with her, and it's a
Exactly.
whole sort of thing. So that's what the hot box dancers are, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We add just a little bit of comedic effect to some of the songs. Of course, we are doing the dance breaks. We are providing just that extra little oomph for Adelaide when she's up there on stage.
Who's your choreographer for this?
It's Kelly Brady, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Brady.
Kelly Brady.
Well, I know
So
there's
she's
more.
been a wonderful addition. She this is the first time that I've worked with her, and just she has a wonderful energy and a wonderful way of connecting with the performers and with the actors. We do dance rehearsals on Sunday evenings, and even though it is Sunday evening, it's the night before, going to work on Monday, and I drag a little bit on Monday morning. It's just so fun to go in on
Oh,
Sunday
who
night.
doesn't drag a little bit on Monday?
Right, regardless.
True, very
Um,
true.
I know I know that the dance in local productions can be a real challenge, because really, you really should have weeks of your own rehearsals and all that kind of stuff. And that's just not something that local companies can really often manage. So what's it been like in this production? Do you, I mean, to like get the dance ready? I don't, let me rephrase that question. How do you approach trying to get enough dance time into not enough rehearsal time?
Wonderful question. We have actually been very agile in regard to rehearsals during the production. So, we want to be cognizant of COVID threats. We want to be cognizant, of course, of the weather that we've had. Thank you, Squall. So we have been using Zoom to use part of our rehearsals as well. So if a cast member is out due to illness, they're able to log in via Zoom. And then one of the benefits of having Zoom going is we've been recording rehearsals, especially the dance rehearsals. And so we'll be posting those videos. Kelly will do videos as well. So it is a lot of on our own rehearsal of that. And then anytime we're running the show, you can guarantee that the Hot Box Chorus Girls, we are going to be in a hallway, we are going to be in another room, and we are just going to be running those dances like you would not believe. So while other people may be sitting there watching the show, they might be getting ready and studying their lines for their next scene. We're out there busting a move and dancing around in the hallway.
So let's stay with you for a second. Now let's switch a little bit to talking about. So you're a board member, and the Mind's Eye Theater Company has gone through a transition. It was originally founded by terrific people, Jeff Ketterman and Janet. Oh my gosh.
More.
Yeah.
Yes. Gosh. Yes.
So
Her
many
name.
people in this
She moved
community
away.
here.
She moved away. No, but so it transitioned 3 years ago, I guess, to this sort of new leadership. And so let me ask you, how intentional was it that it became all women, or was that sort of who was willing to show up and give? Well, I mean, 'cause a lot of times it's just who's willing to show up and give.
Oh, great.
So, I mean,
I'm
but how
happy
does
to take that question.
Yep.
Please.
If that's when Janet was ready to move, she had invited myself and Kim Stover Hartz, who often did music and shows with us at Mind's Eye as well. She brought us onto the board right before she left. And then Kim and I had some conversations about what we thought the company should look like as we move forward. And I believe around that time is when we brought on Jenn Starr. I think Jenn was our first other board member that we brought into the new group before we were even producing shows at that point. And then Kim had to step back. But right before she did, Kim and I had a conversation about the direction we wanted Mind's Eye to go. And the experience that some of us have had, through the process of being artists in the community, is that sometimes it can be really hard as a woman to find shows that feature women, opportunities to direct or music direct as women, to even choreograph as women, to be featured as women. So we wanted to provide a company that has those opportunities. And as we brought on more board members, we were very thoughtful about who we wanted to bring on, what they could bring with them, what their relationship was with community theater or with Mind's Eye specific. So it's all been very intentional who we've brought onto the board as we've continued to grow. And I think as a board, our hope is, as we continue to grow, now that the pandemic seems to be coming to a place where we can be doing productions again, thankfully, that we'll be able to do more productions that have female directors, that have, entire female identifying production staff members, or shows that feature more women. It's so hard looking for musicals that even have more women than men in the cast, because even if the show's story centers around women, it's still like 2 women, and 6 dudes.
Well,
And it's written by a guy, that's a really hard thing to do. So that's the hope, I think, as Mind's Eye progresses, that we can, promote female identifying humans.
Well, even Guys and Dolls, which has these 2 really strong women characters, and there's a lot of women on stage in the hot box dancers, but there's several guys that are roles, that are characters, that are developed, and really only the 2 women. Although you have, let's see, so there is the woman who's the leader of the general of the Salvation
General
Army,
Cartwright.
General Cartwright, played by Kelly Cat.
Kelly Cat.
So but still that sort of shows the sort of imbalance of that. And the issues you're talking about are always fascinating to me, because we know that there've been people who've done things where they take plays that are all men and just cast them with women, which is one way to approach that. And maybe, and I always think like, well, isn't that a little regressive? Because wouldn't the women just behave entirely differently? Wouldn't they be, I don't know, smarter or different? They just would do it differently, They wouldn't be those men. But that's what you're forced to do, because there's not a ton of plays where there's 8 or 10 women.
Well, and it gets more tricky when you're doing primarily musicals, because even if you are allowed to flip the cast, which is really dependent on your licensing contract, if they'll even allow it, then you're looking at the possibility of having to completely change all the keys for every single song, because maybe the voices that you have aren't capable of, I'm not saying that female voices cannot sing bass, but it might be a little more challenging for them to reach those lower notes. Not that they can't, but, so having to rewrite all the music in that case is also another hurdle that you would have to get across.
Well, and it's very likely that those composers, a composer writes a song thinking it's for, this man is going to sing it. This is a male role. And so they might write it a certain, when you talk about keys and things like that, they're not intentionally writing it to be difficult for a woman, but they weren't writing it for a female soprano or a female, So, and I'm not very knowledgeable about all that kind of stuff the way you guys are, but I understand enough to know that. So let me get back to Jenn Starr for a second here. Let me ask you this question. Let's just shift back to the show for a little bit. So Jenn Starr, this is, I don't think it's the first time you have directed a thing, but is this the first like full length big production you've directed?
It is it's a big challenge, but I think I've stepped up to it. It's a large show. I've directed smaller shows, and I've assistant directed a lot of large shows, and I've stage managed a lot of large shows. So I felt ready to do it, and I'm so excited, and it's been really fun. It's been a lot of planning, which I thought, I am and my friends can probably attest to this. I've been really, I'm a procrastinator by nature. I'm a type B, and I've really had to step up and be a lot more organized, and it's really paid off. I think all that organization in the beginning and all my luxurious spreadsheets have really come into play for this production, and really planning it out and almost overthinking at times has kind of saved us when we did have to cancel rehearsals for either someone was sick with COVID or someone couldn't make it because they just had the sniffles and we were going to be careful,
Right.
or the 2 snow and ice storms that we had. So it's, we want to make sure we cover all our bases. And now it's crunch time for all of that. And I have to make a punch list today and do all my tech stuff. And I think all that pre-planning and organization up front has really benefited the production and where it is. And just really, we have a great cast, a solid cast of people who were excited to be in this production. We had a wonderful turnout for auditions and people were excited to be in the show. And I'm overwhelmingly joyful about the people that are in it, because right now for tech, I can just go, oh, they've got this. It'll come together once we rehearse it. And it will, and it's coming together each time. And I'm so happy. I'm going to be tired in 2 weeks though, but.
Sure, right. Take a big break.
Yeah.
Well, so we live in a moment where a lot of older pieces of material, a lot of older plays, books, music, get examined through a new lens. When you were looking at Guys and Dolls and starting to work on it, or up to this point, do you feel like it holds up? Do you feel like that at any point is it problematic? I mean, the relationships between men and women in this are not contemporary, but it is a period piece too.
Yes, it is. I think it holds up pretty well. I was just thinking about the two leads, Miss Adelaide and Sarah, Sister Sarah. They are women that, these men change their lives, end up changing their lives to be with these women. And the women are actually very powerful in it. And I think, you can kind of portray that into my own life about, a previous relationship and the relationship that I have now, that power of being myself has made me into a happier person with my spouse now, because they kind of, we kind of developed together instead of me, conforming to a certain relationship standard from my past. And I can kind of see that. I love this, especially Sister Sarah's development. She changes a lot, but she doesn't. And Sky changes for her, which I love. And that, I think I'm so excited about that one. That relationship is, I always tell them, it's the least corny. It's the most sincere kind of, they're the most sincere actors. Mm-hmm. But I'm really just, I think it is a piece that anyone can have fun with. There are a lot of, sexual references in the whole thing. It's very, you can go, there's a lot of little references that make you go, was he writing it that way? Hot box. There's a lot of entendres, shall I say. So for me, I like all the silly and sexual entendres, and they kind of go by quickly. But I think it also helps develop a lot of different things going on and some dynamics that are happening there.
Well, maybe if the period is being reinforced by those kinds of references, then that maybe underscores the power of those two women's journey.
Yep, probably.
We'll see.
That's a great. I read the Cliff Notes.
I was going to ask you if you were scared or intimidated about doing this, but certainly you don't exude any of that. You sound so supremely confident. Were you at the beginning?
There are times when I thought, there's times where I have totally like imposter syndrome creeps in, and I was rarely never like that until I guess I hit 40, which I felt, 40 was my really powerful dynamic period of 40 to 50. And now, like, since the 50, my 50s, personal age wise, I'm like, oh, can I do that? It's weird, the self-doubt that I have sometimes, because I never had self-doubt. And it's fun to kind of play with that, though, actually, because, you have to tell yourself sometimes, yeah, you can do this. Everybody else can do this. Why not, so why not me? Why not us? Why not now? And it's just, I think it's fun and fascinating to be in a director's place. For me, I'm overwhelmingly excited about it, and just seeing it all fit together and seeing the characters, they rehearse on their own. Everyone is on board for this show. It's just a lovely experience for community theater to see the community. And that's what it's about for me. I'm not getting paid, I'm paying and we're putting, our own money up a lot of times and hoping to make it back. but we don't do it, for the fame or fortune or anything like that. But I just love seeing those light bulbs and sparks in people and the connections that they're making right now and the friendships that they're forming. And that's what it's all about for me.
Well, all the years I've been looking at theater, the difference between sort of a local non-professional I don't like the word amateurs, because I look at these three faces and I see women I've been seeing do it for so many years now. There's a lot of experience, right? But the professional versus non-professional, and when people say, anybody want to look down their nose at it, I say, hey, it's great to have a career and be paid to rehearse 8 hours a day and not have to do anything else. But there's also this group of people who do that 9 to 5 job or whatever they're doing, and then like rush to rehearsal, eating a microwave thing of soup or something, because they just do it because they love it. Sometimes I'm wondering, like, what's the professional versus that sort of passion? And how much work is, Maggie's talking about these dance rehearsals, and what is she doing it for? Maggie, what are you doing it for? When you hear Jenn Starr talk about this feeling for what you're doing, do you share in that?
100%. I think you can, just what you were saying, the professionals versus, those of us who have the 9 to 5s and then do this on the side. We moonlight in community theater. We are truly doing it for fun. One of the things that has really struck me during the pandemic, and I speak to other people about this frequently, is that we do this, we're having just as much fun as the audience, if not more fun than the audience watching it. We are here, we are truly playing. It's a chance to step away from the everyday. It's a chance to step away from the humdrum, the spreadsheets, the difficult conversations of work. And it is just a chance for you to feel almost like a kid again. And you get to experiment with different ways of saying things, experiment with different dance moves. It is truly such a safe space to explore more about yourself, explore more about your personality, see what feels good, what makes you laugh, what makes others laugh. I love comedy. I've moved a little bit away from the ingenue roles, and I've moved more towards character roles and comedic roles, because I love making people laugh. And there is nothing like being on stage and hearing someone laugh, or getting that applause at the end of a really tough dance number. Like, as conceited as it may sound, those reactions from the audience members more than make up for the lack of sleep that I've had over countless weeks or months, and the stress of, during my lunch hour being outside and running dance moves and dance numbers. And it's just, it's so exhilarating.
Do your coworkers think you're a little crazy?
My dog does, yes. Luckily, I get to work from home now.
Oh, okay.
But yes, he always is looking at me like, what the heck is going on? Do I need to bark and alert someone that you're having problems out here?
Well, that's what dogs are for. They're just looking out for you.
Exactly.
He's probably dancing on the side.
When I'm working, he's in the other room practicing the routines as well, so he can be an understudy.
Well, and this is, you're saying that as somebody who's, I mean, I don't mean to throw any shade to anybody, but I think about, like, the dance rehearsals might be a little bit more grueling on your body than the people that are acting and not doing that dance work. And
Keith, let me just tell you, it has been like 5.5 years since I've been in a musical, and for my previous life, I had been one of the ones that I'm like, oh yeah, this feels great. Oh, it's fine. I never wake up sore. Well, now it is every day. I'm basically sitting on a heating pad after dance rehearsal, just because I've been out of it for so long. And, of course, age is playing a little bit of part of that as well. I'm a little bit older than I was when I was doing musicals prior, but
I know I probably saw you for the first time like 15 years ago.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's, I'm still like a lot older than you, but
I'm definitely feeling more towards the middle age though. I'm getting my body's slowing down a little bit. So I'm like, okay, I'm not in my 20s anymore. Here we go.
The hot box dancers are essentially the female chorus, and they are in a lot of dance numbers. So they're changed. How many clothes changes do you have? 7, I want to say.
Oh, probably something like that. Yeah.
They are in so many numbers, and they're learning so many different dances. It's
yeah, that's
crazy.
7, yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Well, as an observer of all the different arts in town, I've always been a little struck. There's a ton of theater companies, and but when you look at the world of dance separately, there's Louisville Ballet, and then there's almost no other company who consistently has been performing. U of L has a department, and they do performances. But I was talking to Teresa Batista once, who I'm a big fan for choreography, and she used to have a company called Moving Collective, and they did one performance a year because she teaches, and now she's at U of K and all this kind of stuff. And I said to her, I said, people have said to me, there's so much theater in town because Actors Theater made it a theater town, right? That like 50, whatever, 60 years ago, they really planted a flag about like what theater could be in town. And so that inspires a lot of people to want to get out and do it. And I said, why doesn't Louisville Ballet, why didn't you see the same thing with dance? Why don't you see that same character theater? She goes, well, because to really do that, you have to dance all the time. You can take a break from acting. You can be gone for 6 months and then come back to a play. And that could still be a challenge to somebody. But the kind of physical demands and rigor of a dance career. I mean, we're talking about, we're talking about somebody at something at a Louisville Ballet level. You've got to do it every single day of your life, almost, to do that. And so for a group of people with whatever range of dance experience you guys all have, to sort of step up and be a chorus for a musical, it really underscores the difficulty of that. And I don't mean to like focus, but you know what? Greg Collier and James Thompson aren't here to talk about singing, so we're talking about dancing.
They have to dance some too, actually. So yeah. Not as much as the ladies do, though.
Right. Everybody has
and
to dance.
It's the dancing, and then it's the singing on top of that. We're rehearsing Bushel and a Peck, and there's a large dance break at the beginning before we even start singing, and it has been very difficult for me to like retrain my lungs to realize, okay, hey, you're going to be hoofing it. You're going to, work very hard at these, this dance break at the beginning. And then, oh, by the way, now that you're out of breath, now you need to sing.
In a mask.
And of course, we've been in masks during that as well. So that's been a little bit more challenging than what I've experienced in the past. But it really takes you to a different place. It really challenges you in such a way. And I'm up for challenges, put a competition, put a challenge in front of me, and I'm going to work at it to be number one at it. That competitive spirit, 100%.
Great. Hats off to you. Well, and when you talk about that, and I saw you guys posted some pictures of rehearsals, and everybody's like doing stuff and they're masked, and I keep thinking like, man, all these people who don't think they should have to wear a mask because it just bothers them so much to actually walk into a grocery store with a mask. I'm like, do this, man. Do what those guys are doing with a mask.
Exactly. Right, like the hockey team had masks on the other day for the Olympics.
Yes, the women's hockey team wore really good quality masks under their masks, and so it's like, yeah, man, don't talk to me about wearing a mask going to
right
the store. Come on, But so you can shame all those people too.
Oh yeah, we could talk for hours about that with me. So
I'm sure. But you won't be wearing masks in the performance, right? You're not, once you get on stage, you're not wearing masks.
Well, I have the clear masks available, and I'm kind of playing that by ear. I would prefer not to, just because we do have a lot of the microphones, mic packs that are on your face, and what is that going to do to those, and there's a couple of intimacy things that you can portray with the masks on. I would rather not, but also want everyone to feel safe. I think if one person our cast prefers that they wear them, let's wear them. I don't want anyone to panic about things they shouldn't have to panic about and worry about. That's another whole layer of this show that we've been really careful, as much as we can about making sure people are safe and they feel safe.
Right. which
But
is
the audience is far enough away, and it's a large space with a large, I think
Right.
there's a lot of circulation in the air. I don't think we're going to have to worry about it too much. I'd prefer not to, but I also want to just, play that by ear right now.
Well, the nice thing is the numbers are going down so much too. I think if we're not beginning to see it, or if we're not already well into the decline of this, most recent surge, I think, when we started a week before we started rehearsals, the board, we were having discussions of, do we do this?
Yeah.
Do we need to push it? With the numbers surging the way that they were. And, at the beginning of the rehearsal process, of course, after the holidays, we had quite a few people that were out due to COVID exposure and either being COVID positive or just being exposed. And it's been something that we've taken very seriously from the beginning. And it has been so nice. And it's almost, a relief to see, okay, we're seeing the numbers going down. So we are consistently getting safer and safer and safer as we move through this process.
Yeah. I mean, we changed things up, like for auditions, I had small little numbers of people at auditions, instead of big cattle call auditions like most musicals have. And people were like, oh, that's weird. I don't know how that, they didn't know how it was going to work. And it worked really well. In fact, I got to see people much better, experience within 1 hour than, someone sitting around for 3 hours and being seen once. So, we limited to about 8 people an hour for auditions. And that was lovely, actually.
well.
And Keith, let me tell you too,
Right.
Jenn has been fantastic at maximizing use of time for this show. She has been stellar at saying, these are the people that need to be here for these 30 to an hour minute blocks. I mean, she makes sure that the people that are at rehearsal need to be there. She's, making sure we don't have too many people that are just kind of milling around, potentially bringing more exposure. And
Yeah, right.
she's very respectful of, the actors' times, which I think we've all been in productions where it's, you're sitting around for 2 to 3 hours, not doing anything. And then by the end of it, you're on stage for 5 minutes and you're like, I could have been cleaning my house during this.
Yes,
Working on
I've
another
I've
project.
heard many of those kinds of stories. But what you're really saying is, and I'm back at the beginning when I was who I was interviewing a lot were teachers and things, because everything was canceled. And so teachers were normally hard for me to ever have an interview with live at 10 a.m. on a Thursday morning. But what are the silver linings that you come from this? So you did these things out of necessity because of COVID, but you also found value in the change in the procedures, that even if COVID actually completely leaves us, which I'm not sure that ever is going to happen, but you found like maybe this is a better way to do it too. Maybe
I'll be recording our dance rehearsals from any musical from here on out. I will record it via Zoom because it
Right.
is just so helpful.
Yeah, and I think I have to applaud Jean Marie Rogers, our music director, too. She's been very flexible, and she's helped us a lot with our rehearsal space. She got involved early on, and she's been wonderful. So we rehearse at the Crescent Hill United Ministries, where one of her groups were rehearsed before. So they've been really wonderful sharing their space. We used to rehearse in a nursing home basement. I didn't know if you knew that, Keith, but we thought that might be problematic. So we've had to find some alternate rehearsal space. And Sarah Drake has loaned us her studio in Sellersburg on Sundays for dance, which has been wonderful as well. So we've had
I would like to go ahead and put a plug to anyone who is listening. We are always, and I think any community theater in the area is always looking for rehearsal space. So if anyone is aware of them, please reach out to, Mind's Eye a little selfishly, but anyone in the community theaters would just be over the moon to have someone say, hey, I've got space that you can use.
Yeah, and we rehearse. We try to limit it to 3 nights a week because we all have families and we all have full-time jobs.
Right.
I know there's other companies that rehearse 5 nights a week, and I just can't do it. That's just a lot. It's too much. So we've had a little bit longer rehearsals for 3 nights a week as opposed to 4 nights a week or 5 nights a week.
Well, and we need to wrap up, but let me ask you, so what's next for Mind's Eye? What's the next production?
Oh, it's a secret. No.
I thought there was something announced. Am I missed?
There's nothing been announced. I know that we have some space that we've booked, reserved at the MEX, I believe.
Mhm.
And we want to see how this show goes with the Art Sanctuary. And Lisa Fry has been a joy to work with, by the way. So we're kind of experimenting in what we can and cannot do, and we got to pay for this show too. So with that in mind, and how much the rights are for a couple of different things we were looking at, is going to help, parlay that out. Really, do we need to do something that's public domain? So we have to wait and see. And Mind's Eye, we've traditionally done like 3 shows a year, and there's a lot of theater going on, and we do want to be, like Valerie said before, it's like we look for things that feature women, and sometimes that's more difficult. There's a couple things that we're looking at right now that one of the rights of a show that we're looking at, we're kind of weird. You have to fly the production team, or you have to fly the writer in or something. So there's different things that we're looking at, but nothing is set in stone right now.
Okay, but you're not sitting still.
No, by any
Exactly.
means.
And here's another little plug, just because I'm on the board, I've got to do this, I'm in sales. If anyone would like to sponsor, if anyone, of course, donations, that's how we run. The board members, we're pumping in our own money because, this is our passion project. This is fun. But we are starting to look at sponsorships. We are looking for donations. We are a nonprofit, so get that tax write-off. But please, if anyone is interested, we've got a great reach with audience. We would love to talk to you about it.
Okay. And again, the website, mindseyetheater.com is how you find out about things. So we got to wrap up, but Jenn Starr and Maggie Hartman, Valerie Canon had to scoot out of the interview to do some things. She has a busy family schedule, and she had to take her dog to the vet. Let's just say, I think that's
the groomer. Yeah.
Very important. Our dogs are important to us.
They are.
And she's got 3 incredible daughters. The Canon girls will be ruling the world someday. But Mind's Eye Theater Company, production of Guys and Dolls, opens February 25th at Art Sanctuary, runs for 2 weekends. And so they're in final rehearsals now. So check out how you can attend at mindseyetheater.com. And thank you so much, Jenn and Maggie, for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you for having
Appreciate it
us.
very much.
My pleasure.